Expanding is the task of taking a shorter piece of text, such as a set of instructions or a list of topics, and having the large language model generate a longer piece of text, such as an email or an essay about some topic. There are some great uses of this, such as if you use a large language model as a brainstorming partner. But I just also want to acknowledge that there's some problematic use cases of this, such as if someone were to use it to generate a large amount of spam. So when you use these capabilities of a large language model, please use it only in a responsible way and in a way that helps people.
In this video, we'll go through an example of how you can use a language model to generate a personalized email based on some information. The email is kind of self-proclaimed to be from an AI bot, which, as Andrew mentioned, is very important. We're also going to use another one of the model's input parameters called temperature, and this kind of allows you to vary the kind of degree of exploration and variety in the kind of model's responses. So let's get into it. So before we get started, we're going to kind of do the usual setup. So set up the OpenAI Python package and then also define our helper function getCompletion. And now we're going to write a custom email response to a customer review. And so given a customer review and the sentiment, we're going to generate a custom response. Now we're going to use the language model to generate a custom email to a customer based on a customer review and the sentiment of the review. So we've already extracted the sentiment using the kind of prompts that we saw in the inferring video. And then this is the customer review for a blender. And now we're going to customize the reply based on the sentiment. And so here the instruction is, you are a customer service AI assistant. Your task is to send an email reply to a valued customer. Given the customer email delimited by 3 backticks, generate a reply to thank the customer for their review. If the sentiment is positive or neutral, thank them for their review. If the sentiment is negative, apologize and suggest that they can reach out to customer service. Make sure to use specific details from the review, write in a concise and professional tone, and sign the email as AI customer agent. And when you're using a language model to generate text that you're going to show to a user, it's very important to have this kind of transparency and let the user know that the text they're seeing was generated by AI. And then we'll just input the customer review and the review sentiment. And also note that this part isn't necessarily important because we could actually use this prompt to also extract the review sentiment and then in a follow-up step write the email. But just for the sake of the example, well, we've already extracted the sentiment from the review. And so here we have a response to the customer. It kind of addresses details that the customer mentioned in their review. And kind of as we instructed, suggests that they reach out to customer service because this is just an AI customer service agent. Next, we're going to use a parameter of the language model called temperature that will allow us to change the kind of variety of the model's responses. So you can kind of think of temperature as the degree of exploration or kind of randomness of the model. And so for this particular phrase, my favorite food is, the kind of most likely next word that the model predicts is pizza, and the kind of next to most likely it suggests are sushi and tacos. And so at a temperature of 0, the model will always choose the most likely next word, which in this case is pizza. And at a higher temperature, it will kind of also choose one of the less likely words, and at an even higher temperature, it might even choose tacos, which only kind of has a 5% chance of being chosen. And you can imagine that kind of as the model continues this final response, so my favorite food is pizza, and it kind of continues to generate more words, this response will kind of diverge from the response, the first response, which is my favorite food is tacos. And so as the kind of model continues, these two responses will become more and more different. In general, when building applications where you want a kind of predictable response, I would recommend using temperature 0. Throughout all of these videos, we've been using temperature 0, and I think that if you're trying to build a system that is reliable and predictable, you should go with this. If you're trying to kind of use the model in a more creative way where you might kind of want a kind of wider variety of different outputs, you might want to use a higher temperature. So now let's take this same prompt that we just used and let's try generating an email, but let's use a higher temperature. So in our getCompletion function that we've been using throughout the videos, we have kind of specified a model and then also a temperature, but we've kind of set them to default. So now let's try varying the temperature. So we use the prompt and then let's try temperature 0.7. And so with temperature 0, every time you execute the same prompt, you should expect the same completion, whereas with temperature 0.7, you'll get a different output every time. So here we have our email, and as you can see, it's different to the email that we kind of received previously. And let's just execute it again to show that we'll get a different email again. And here we have another different email. And so I recommend that you kind of play around with temperature yourself. Maybe you could pause the video now and try this prompt with a variety of different temperatures just to see how the outputs vary. So to summarize, at higher temperatures, the outputs from the model are kind of more random. You can almost think of it as that at higher temperatures, the assistant is more distractible, but maybe more creative. In the next video, we're going to talk more about the chat completions endpoint format and how you can create a custom chatbot using this format.